again yesterday by 0.04%, still 10.95 trillion as far as the market cap is concerned. We're going to go into oil and gas. So oil specifically, Adeola. Oil has risen to rose to $70.
Yes.
The highest it's been since what?
November.
November. Yeah. What's
Yeah.
what's what's behind the rise?
Yeah, so in addition to the challenges that Venezuela has had,
Mm,
they're in crisis. So it has affected their oil produce, which I mean contributes to significant quota in terms of global oil production.
mm,
We also have crisis in Libya. Now, I mean, for Libya, it's been since 2011.
right.
So since Muammar Gaddafi was taken off, we've had different factions trying to control asset and trying to overthrow the other. So I believe that there's a new controversy coming up.
Mm,
Some may even say perhaps external factors are stimulating this. So
okay.
as a result, you're seeing a tussle for oil and gas assets. I mean, for control generally of
Mm,
the juicy locations in the country. So
right.
that has also affected oil production. So due to that anticipation that oil availability is on a reduced level, so you're seeing that market is speculating that okay, this is what oil price is doing now. So you
Okay.
just have some panic, towards that. But we should say that unlike last year,
Yeah.
US had not yet come up to 12.2.
Right.
US is now on the table, and recently the Permian Basin, which a lot of the oil majors are actually scrapping to get a share of.
Okay.
Some time ago, if you remember, Exxon indicated that they wanted to sell some of their oil and
The
gas assets.
assets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the main reasons was that they wanted to invest in the Permian Basin. So we are seeing sometime in July, we are seeing some increase in terms of oil production from that region.
Mm,
So what I'm saying is that whatever supply deficit that the crisis in Libya and Venezuela is causing is not going to be so significant
mm,
when you
mm.
have that additional input coming from US.
Right.
So at best, maybe oil price probably just ranging maybe 70 something dollars.
Okay.
So we are not likely to see the 100 or the highs of the 80s that we saw in last year. Yeah.
Before. Okay. And again, we always have this conversation when we're talking about oil prices rising.
Mm.
Nigeria shouldn't really be smiling. I mean, we should celebrate, yes, because we're going to be earning from this increase in oil prices.
Mhm.
But there's still the subsidy issue, Abi.
Yes, yes. And my case for Nigeria is that OPEC as a cartel, at the end of the day, there are two philosophies
Mm,
in OPEC. So we have countries that have developed economies to rapidly ramp up oil production. So you are
okay.
talking about referring to Saudi Arabia, and then non-OPEC referring to Russia.
Right.
So these are countries that can quickly take advantage of any supply deficit
Mm,
by increasing their oil production. They usually go against previous agreement as to the cut and all that. So we've not yet developed our own ability to ramp up oil production on that level.
right.
So meaning that these little chances that come up to make extra money, we
Uh-huh.
do not yet have that capacity. And I doubt if we have the negotiating power as well, in OPEC. So not so much,
Just to
to be excited
celebrate,
for
right,
us,
for the
not so
increase.
much. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We move on from oil to taxes. Here
Yeah.
is the FIRS is again in the headlines. FIRS has been, that's the Federal Inland Revenue Service. They've been making headlines recently. What were they doing last time? They were closing people's accounts, and then they had to back off from that because they're trying to collect tax money. But
Yeah.
I'm showing here a headline from Nairametrics that the FIRS is now charging or plans to charge VAT on betting and lottery games, and they're also saying that stakeholders are protesting. What's the gist here?
Yeah, so the betting and lottery game industry is a huge market. I
Mm,
think it's estimated to what about probably $2 billion thereabout.
mm,
I mean, it's a market that affords the common man to put in 100 naira.
yes,
There's no business you can invest that in and possibly get some quick wins.
right.
Whereas you can also get losses as well.
Then we're
So
talking about betting on football games and all these other
I
things.
mean,
Yeah,
anything,
anything,
anything
right?
that can be traded on, anything.
Mm,
They can even bet on who the next president could be, and
right.
if it's staked on one of these betting platforms,
You make your money.
yeah, they make their money. So we've seen that the government in its bid to try to raise funds to meet its revenue target, to be able to fund its budget, they are looking to spread their tentacles beyond what we've always known them to do. In terms of the impact, yes, you expect the operators to cry foul that this is going to stifle business operator, because what it implies is that you now have higher maybe subscription levels,
Right.
and this might actually discourage some of the existing people that patronize
Right.
this sort of sport or this sort of business.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's going to add in terms of tax receipts, but again, when you look at when you think about it,
Yeah.
if government really wants to raise revenue, if foreign dealer wants to see how to deploy its revenue appropriately,
Mm-hmm.
we should first eliminate our subsidy. 1 trillion, spending 1 trillion on
On
subsidy
subsidies, not the way.
is I don't know what to qualify it.
All right. Now,
Yeah.
talking about oil, we
Yeah.
have a few responses to the oil story. Like
Okay.
play, second quarter into the year, and we're still way above the $60 projection in our budget, thanks to Maduro's stubbornness. There's, however, something worrisome. The demand for Nigeria's sweet crude is gradually reducing. Hopefully, OPEC does not advise further reduction in production to add to our worries, says Ibrahim.
Okay.
Then we have another one here from Yinka. Yinka says, Rotus, I'm beginning to conclude on a certain conspiracy theory. And here is this theory. The US withdraws its few forces in Libya, and suddenly a renegade general decide to wage war against the UN-backed government, and now there is a spike in oil prices. I don't want to imply anything, but something is not right somewhere. I can't wish Libya bad, but
Yinka. Okay. Thank you for your messages. Okay, Adeola, now let's look at the World Bank revising its growth projection for pretty much the entire world, for the developed economies, for Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. I think they cut their growth projection initially from 3.3% for sub-Saharan Africa down to 2.8%. Also revised growth for us and everyone. Why is the World Bank suddenly retracting on their initial projections for growth?
So we are seeing weaker than initially forecast growth levels. So the trade tensions, the trade talks between US and China, they missed the initial deadline of March 1 to resolve that, and that impact, the percentage of the world trade that it accounts for is very high, about 60% thereabout. So we've seen a lot of economies shrink. China too is very careful. It's until it was on the back of the benefit that it was enjoying, in terms of its trade relations to US, that it could afford to dip in its pocket and do some trade in other countries, particularly in Africa. But now they need to resolve this. So these tensions has caused a lot of panic, and then we have weak consumer spending, weak production levels generally. The UK as well, the Brexit. So we have tensions in major economies. Even in Europe, there's been an underperformance. They had the systematically important banks, the ECB had to halt any indication of a rate hike, and kick in some stimulus to be able to stimulate the economy. So we are seeing weak growth generally across board, across countries, and this has also filtered into SSA, that's sub-Saharan Africa. And then when you look at sub-Saharan Africa, by the time you put out, Nigeria, Angola, South Africa, those three countries alone amount for about 60% thereabout. So firstly, in terms of the oil industry for Nigeria and Angola, which is where we is heavily dependent on for revenues, we are not doing as well as we should. Even though oil production are still stable, but in terms of investment, we've not really attracted the level of investment that was projected. That other countries are doing. Look at what Saudi Arabia has done with the IPO. It's a way to be able to optimize its oil and gas assets. It knows that the value is dropping, and they're trying to see how they can, optimize it, get some monetary funds and pump it into other sectors. So we are not addressing our reforms. Policy reforms are not consistent. No one is sure where exactly Nigeria is heading. For the investors. And then in South Africa, the scandal of Jacob Zuma, with the Guptas, they are yet to resolve that. So those uncertainties has inspired low investor confidence. So when you have those three countries underperforming, it's unsurprising that
for the region to come down. All right, I want to Ayo, can we read this message from
Chukwemeka also says on Twitter, good morning guys, glad Rotus invited me as I'm better informed. Please, how can we get more tax? So I'm guessing this is what he's saying. Are we going to widen the tax net without increasing VAT?
Right, so Adeola, how can we? He's wondering how. And Chukwemeka, thank you for your message. How can we get more tax? I guess without possibly increasing VAT.
Well, firstly, when you look at the current tax receipt, it just spans maybe 2, 3, 4 states of the 36 states. By the time you take out Lagos, Rivers, you do Abuja, Ogun State, maybe 1 or 2 other ones. Other states are relatively untaxed. In essence, and we have a significant part of the informal economy that is untaxed. So it boils down with the tax office working closely with some of these regulatory offices to be able to document businesses that are operating both formally and informally. So I believe that even with existing tax laws, if you're able to spread reach in terms of being able to tax all the businesses that we run in this country, we should be able to generate sufficient receipts without necessarily increasing even the VAT.
So there has to be more effort to widen the tax.
There has to be more effort to, and then there has to be more collaboration between some of these companies. For instance, if you're setting up a company, you go to CAC, and then other ones. So we do not see that collaboration really,
Coming,
so that's it.
All right, that's all the time we have.
That's all the time you have, Rotus. But Tajuddin, final comment here from Twitter, is not convinced that the oil is $70. So he says, which oil is $70? Nigeria just like mine.
No, he's Tajuddin. Okay, well, I'll send you the actual Brent crude prices so you can actually see for yourself.
Thank you very much.
Adeola, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Rotus. We'll have Rotus back again tomorrow morning
Yes.
at 6:45. So please stay tuned and do keep rushing to turn on your radio like someone commented once it's 6:45 to listen. This is still Smooth Breakfast here on Smooth 98.1. When we come back, we'll be having a chat on property and investment. And afterwards, we have Freshly Pressed 981 at 7:30. Stay tuned.